I like to do one trip a year with my wife and one trip a year with my wife and my kids. I've been dying to play Las Sendas, and I'm playing that tomorrow with Mark.
Hey y'all, welcome back to City Limitless, where we explore Mesa and beyond its city boundaries. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm really excited because this guest, we've kind of chatted on LinkedIn, we've crossed paths in different conventions, and now enough chatting on LinkedIn has brought him all the way down here from Utah to our Mesa studios. Adam Stoker, founder, CEO of Brand Revolt, and I would honestly say industry podcast guru. Welcome.
I'm so glad to be here, Ashley. I really appreciate the invite. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, well, welcome. I want to dive into this. Like I've said, we've crossed paths multiple times in different places. We've chatted on LinkedIn. You've brought my coworkers onto your podcast, and now we're just evolving here with Visit Mesa and City Limitless. But what I really want our audience to know is who Adam is. You have done so much in the space. I look up to you of what you're doing, but at your core, who is Adam?
Man, I don't know.
Big loaded question for a morning. Yeah. I know.
So first of all, I'm a husband and father. I've got 4 kids. I am one of the few people that can say I married the woman of my dreams. And so I'm really, really fortunate in that. And so who am I? It kind of starts there. And I guess outside of that, I have to figure out a way to provide a life for them. And that's where you get into all the professional stuff that I do. I'm someone who really, I try to think a lot about like what the future looks like, and I try to build a plan to get to what that future is going to be. And that's a path full of failure and success and everything in between. And I don't really know how to narrow who I am in other than I'm someone who's really trying to provide a great life for my family.
No, I love that. And the only reason why I ask is because we're personalities on a screen, right? And sometimes people just want to know, like, what do you do on your off time? Who are you? You're this guy telling me all the things about travel destinations, but what are you doing, right? What does your family look like? And I only asked that because on your 300th episode, you brought in a very special guest. And I thought that was super cute to include your family in something that you do on the everyday and you're passionate about, but also bring those two worlds together. Yeah. That's so important.
Well, it's funny. That was something my daughter was, I think she had just turned 13 when I had her on, or she was 12. It was somewhere in that neighborhood. And it was the part of, she's my oldest, and it was the part of fatherhood that I'm not the coolest person she's ever met anymore, right? Like she had just kind of made that transition. And it was kind of funny because I invited her to come on the show and interview me. Yeah. And I've really kind of kept those two worlds pretty different, right? Like I haven't really brought my family on my show or anything like that. And it was really fun to do. And I knew she would think it was cool. And what was so funny about that episode is she really had prepared some jokes that I wasn't prepared
you went
for.
In blind.
Yeah, so she I can't remember who she said the show was sponsored by, but it was just out of left field. And so anyway, she definitely caught me off guard, and we had a really fun conversation. And it was one of the highlights of my career for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you know what's funny? You talk about prepping for the future. You're training up your daughter maybe to be filling a seat in the future or maybe driving a career path for her, which is so cool to start at such a young age and open her eyes to more things out there in the world than what you can get exposure to, right?
Yeah, I've always been terrified of being the dad that says, I want you to follow in my footsteps or something like that. So I've tried to be really clear with her, hey, whatever you want to do, I want you to do it, but I'm going to try to provide the resources for you to be able to do that. And she does have an interest in advertising, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if she holds that interest in the future. I don't know if we'll ever be able to work together and get along or whatever. I don't know. I definitely know that with her mom, I can't put together an IKEA bookshelf with her in the room.
Okay.
And so if any of that has carried through to her,
then you're like,
I don't know. I don't know if I can do it, but we'll see.
Who knows? Well, let's talk about professional life then, because you've had multitudes of podcasts, a few different companies. How did you get started in the DMO space?
So I went to BYU. I studied advertising, and I from there, I got an internship at the largest privately owned agency in Utah, which, Utah's not a big agency mecca. So those that are listening, it wasn't Wyden and Kennedy or anything like that, right? But I worked there for a while and kind of learned how agencies work. And I kind of hit my ceiling and then got a job at a really small agency. So I went from 300 people to 3 people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a transition.
It was really kind of a stark transition for me, for sure. But it was cool because I went from being like a small cog in a big wheel, right, to having a lot of influence over what we did. And my job was to bring in new opportunities and then use what I knew from the big agency to build infrastructure underneath me. The funny thing about that is with where I was in that agency, I didn't know anything about building infrastructure. So I just tried to kind of copy what I had seen work at that other agency. And as part of my job to bring in new opportunities, I was always on the lookout. Like the biggest client we ever signed, I pulled up next to a truck from a telecom company and I was like, man, that logo is ugly. They probably need help.
Oh my gosh.
I called the phone number on the side of the truck and that client actually ended up being a telecom company that's across 5 states.
Wow.
And we still actually work with them today.
Okay, literally talk about thinking outside the box.
It was crazy. And so I did a lot of stuff like that. And I drove one day by the Cedar City, Utah tourism office. And I saw the word tourism and I was like, well, I bet they have budget.
Little did you know.
And I walked in the door and it's actually, we had put a billboard up in St. George that said, we'll kick your ads. And it just had our logo on it. It was kind of fun. And so I walked in, they had seen our billboard and I said, hey, do you guys need help with your marketing? And they said, as a matter of fact, we do. We actually saw your billboard. We've been meaning to call you. And I was like,
oh my
sweet.
gosh.
And that really that was one of the turning points in my career because I got to get into this wild world of tourism and we brought on destination after destination. Next thing you knew, tourism was about 40% of our business. And
wow.
Yeah, it kind of grew from there.
Oh my gosh. Now take us on the journey of podcasting. We're going to get into own media, but I want to talk about podcasting because so many people have the opportunity to do it at their fingertips. Only few can do it so well. And I feel like you're one of those few. So tell me and take me on that journey. I'm not hearing a radio background. I'm not hearing entertainer background. How does one get into that podcast space, especially in tourism?
Yeah. This is one of the things that I was fortunate enough to stumble into. I sold radio. I never actually did radio, right? And what I found is as we got those referrals and built up our tourism business, when we tried to expand outside of Utah, I realized that there was so much more competition than I thought there was, right? And so we would respond to these RFPs, and that's request for proposal for those that are listening. And when we would respond to those RFPs, we would either lose to the massive agency in the industry, there's a few of them, or we would lose to the local flavor that actually didn't have tourism experience, but they're around the corner, so they felt really easy to get to. And I felt like we needed somewhere that people could see that we knew what we were talking about with tourism. And so I just said, let's start a podcast. It was in May of 2019. And I actually had a guy on my staff with some radio experience. And
all right.
He helped us produce it. And we just kind of got it up off the ground. And I've been doing at least one episode a week now since May of 2019.
Wow. And that's dedication. And I don't think people realize like the time and energy and the commitment to conversate, to educate yourself, to do the research, to interview guests, to coordinate guests. That all goes into podcasting. It doesn't just fall in place overnight.
Yeah.
Tell me about those milestones that you've had. What are your downloads looking like? Like, tell me about the first time you hit the 100 download. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm really fortunate, first of all, to have a team of people who can do the things that I'm not good at doing myself.
Sure.
Right? So I don't know how to edit audio. I've learned some over the years, right? I don't know how to publish. Again, this is things that I've learned, but I didn't know how to do at the start. And so I was really fortunate to have people in our organization. I think it's the benefit of owning an advertising agency. I have a lot of versatile and very skilled people that work with me. And so we were able to do a lot of the things that it would have been harder to do on my own.
Sure.
Some of the milestones that we've hit, I didn't really know if people were listening at first, right? And to be honest with you, they probably weren't.
That's okay.
But the purpose of it was not to build a massive audience at first. The purpose was to at least have a place where people could see that we knew what we were doing. So I would send the episode to people when I talked about a specific topic and they had questions about a specific thing. And I almost think that not trying to just build an audience from the get-go was good for me, because I really just focused on, well, here's the breadth of content that I need to cover so that people will believe what I'm saying.
Sure.
Right. And then, of course, I brought on really smart people from the industry. And that was another part of the method was, it's not just going to be me talking. I'm going to bring a guest on every time, ask them questions. And there is not a single thing that has made me smarter in my career than having 400 interviews and asking people questions about what they do and what their challenges are. And it's accelerated my education like crazy. I still haven't gotten into milestones. I'm sorry.
No, you're
I'm
okay.
a podcaster.
Talk away. Tell me all the stories.
One of the most interesting things was when I got a message on LinkedIn from a guy in Italy that said, hey, I've been listening to your podcast and it's really helped me get up to speed.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, I didn't even know people in Italy were listening, you know? And our downloads were still really low at that point. And that was kind of the time when it shifted for me from, this is a credibility piece for me, for the industry to serve me, to, I think I'm actually offering a service to the industry, if that makes sense. And that turning point was really when I recognized the show isn't for me. And ever since, we've really focused on any value we're providing is to the audience. And I've gotten messages from New Zealand. I've gotten messages from all over the United States.
Wow.
And it's resulted in speaking opportunities. I mean, there's only 25,000 or so destination marketers in the world.
Small group of people.
It's a very small and narrow industry. I've got 150,000 downloads on my show. And I don't know, I never thought I would get to this point. I never thought I'd be on stage at Esto speaking, right? And
doing the CMO jams, connecting with all the CMOs in the industry to talk about the industry topics.
It's been amazing. And none of that would have happened if I hadn't just started talking into the microphone.
Which is crazy, right? Like how I had a fun question come up recently, and it was, describe your job without telling me what you do. And I don't want your title. I don't want what's on your resume. And I was like, I talk into a microphone and I tell stories. And I was like, wow, what a easy, basic thing to do, but it is impactful. You know? So with that being said, you ask questions to get smarter. That's what podcasters do. At least that's what I hope they're doing. How does that translate into why the owned media space is so important and why podcasting is a part of that?
Yeah, this is where everything from my agency to my philosophy on marketing, everything has changed for me because of this podcast.
Wow.
Right. And what I started to recognize as I didn't even listen to podcasts when I started my podcast. I had done a little bit of the gateway drug, right? Which is the true crime.
Yep. Same. Who didn't?
So
what was your first podcast that you listened to?
There was
Serial.
Serial was one of the first.
That was literally my first podcast.
It was one of the first, but there was also a podcast in Utah. There was a case of a woman who had disappeared, and the podcast is called Cold.
Loved that podcast.
Did you listen to it?
I couldn't get enough of that podcast.
And that story was so front and center in Utah, right? And so it really captured me on that one. So yeah, true crime.
So as we're all sitting here, we're going to be a true crime podcaster. We talk about destinations. I would say equally as exciting, though.
I guess it depends on who your audience.
True.
Right. But for me, what I recognized is that with the shifts that are happening in the media landscape, we've really decentralized media in general, right? And in doing that, it used to be that an interruption-based advertisement could cause someone to make a purchase decision. And man, I don't know how deep you want me to go on this, because this, when I say it's changed everything for me about marketing, it truly has.
I mean, I'm going as deep as you want to go.
Well, so the marketing math equation used to be, you spend money to get awareness, right? And then you try to work them through consideration and purchase.
Yep.
The math equation now is attention is the number one currency that you need. So I look at it as attention And then trust is what you're trying to sell once you get attention. It's not a product. You need people to trust you first. So attention plus trust equals success, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And I look at that, and you look at, there's several companies who have been built on this idea of having an owned relationship with their audience instead of an interruption-based relationship with the audience. And you think about Prime is a great example. If you've ever tried Prime hydration drink, it is not good. But Jake Paul has the largest YouTube audience, or one of the largest YouTube audiences out there, and his audience liked him so much and trusted him so much that when he launched a product, they wanted to buy it because of their affinity to him.
Yeah.
Right. And you can see hundreds of examples like that. That's just one. You know, golf's big here in Arizona. Me and Mark are going to go play golf tomorrow.
I'm so excited.
Good Golf is another example of that. It's a bunch of guys that just started playing golf and publishing it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And now they have some of the biggest brand deals in the golf world. And they're even getting welcomed as getting the exception to enter a PGA Tour event.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so it's really changed a lot about the media landscape entirely. It comes down to the fact that the audience is expecting something different than they used to. Value for them needs to be given in the form of either education or entertainment. And if you're not providing education or entertainment, it's really hard to get attention. And so in this economy today, I feel like every brand needs to have a direct relationship with their audience in order to have success. Otherwise, having to go through these intermediaries of media companies that you have to pay for access to the audience they built, it's going to be very difficult to sustain that for a long term. I think all of us know businesses who built their entire business on Facebook, and then one change in the algorithm killed the business. And that's because they didn't have an owned relationship with the audience. And I just think for where things are going, media is decentralized. Everybody is going to need to build a direct relationship with their audience. And if you're dependent upon someone else, it's going to be very difficult to be successful.
Yeah. No, and I also think about evergreenness, keeping your content as usable as possible, right? We can take a 30-minute podcast, for instance, and clip it up in how many ways to repurpose, reuse, and use it year over year, as long as that content's still relevant. You know, that's huge, and it's not a one and done, and it can be used in so many different outlets. You have your email campaigns, you have social media campaigns, YouTube ads. You know, we use a lot of our content and we publish to a local Mesa channel here. So our audience can also be our residents on the local channel, and it's just one episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's twofold on all of that.
Well, the scalability of it really is so important, right? We're in the middle of another shift right now where I think we used to use clips to drive to the full episode, right? The clips actually need to have standalone value at this point and tell kind of the full story in the clip. So even that's changing. So the idea of, hey, I'm just going to record a podcast and it's just going to be that podcast, I don't even think that's relevant anymore. I think the volume of clips that you need in order to grab attention is really high now. And so I think we're in the middle of that shift. And so I think everybody that does a podcast needs to be thinking, okay, these clips, do they tell enough of the story where they don't have to watch the entire episode? And we may be creating episodes for the value of the clips as opposed to the value of the entire episode.
I couldn't agree more. I'm so glad our brains are working on that same brain wavelength, because I'm sitting here, I'm like, all right, let's record 30 minutes. But I'm like, what clips can I get out of this? I'm recording for clips with the hope that everybody will want to watch long form, but using the clips is going to be a huge, vital, pivotal moment for how podcasting turns. So with that being said, that kind of goes into my question. You work with multiple DMOs, whether they're starting a podcast, whether they're in active production, what's some advice that you give them?
Well, I think DMOs are challenging because it's very hard to humanize a DMO, if that makes sense, right? And you look at a lot of these brands where you have an affinity for the person that's the face of the organization. And so to make that connection, I think number one is you need to recognize that your people are going to be front and center, and you need to embrace that and let the audience build a relationship with your people. And the other thing that I would say is, we used to think of podcasts as a visitor generation vehicle, The place where I'm starting to see it provide maybe even more value is in stakeholder engagement, relationship building, and community pride. And I look at some of the episodes that you've done, like the Savannah Bananas. I know you've done several. You've had some really big influencers on. Big Dawes.
Big Dawes, yeah.
That so fun.
10 million subscribers on YouTube right here in Mesa.
Such a
How
massive,
insane.
massive personality. The community's proud of that, right?
Yeah.
And or the fact that the Savannah Bananas have chosen Mesa as a place to go repeatedly, which they haven't done anywhere else. That's another source of community pride. So I almost am seeing that these podcasts, instead of viewing them as a visitation magnet, they really are going to have a much better purpose and build a more like long-standing audience as well by working specifically in the local community and tailoring that message to the local community. So this may be more of an advocacy tool as things are continuing to evolve than a visitation tool. And I think it's okay to embrace that. The last thing I'll say on that is there's another trend that's happening, and that's founder-led communication. You can see it with Elon Musk on X, regardless of how you feel about him. He's leading the charge on that. And you can see a lot of other founders are building affinity for their organization through being the face. That is no different for a DMO in the local community. It's a great way to have the president, CEO front and center and in front of so many people in the community that need to believe in what that person is doing. And so I think that's another reason to think of it as an advocacy tool.
No, I love that. And that is definitely something. My big goal is to be getting Mark Garcia in the studio on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, because I know there's so many hot topics that, as you said, a leader should talk to the community on, present on, to get that credibility, to know, what we're doing here is valid for the residents of Mesa. Long-term goal for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about some fun stuff.
Let's do it.
We can dive into all podcasts all day, but we are in the travel and tourism industry reality, right? I want to know, what are some of your hot items when you're traveling that you absolutely need to pack every single time?
This is going to sound really dumb, but I'm just going to say it. Several years ago, my mom, for Christmas, got me a little foldable laundry bag.
Oh.
Yeah. And it zips open and it becomes this big laundry bag, and I put all my dirty clothes in it, and I forgot it this trip, actually.
Well, now you got Amazon Prime one of those.
Right?
Wait, that is so funny, because now I need to throw away my grocery bags and just commit to an actual bag, because my husband's like, why do you keep so many grocery bags? I'm like, because when we travel, we need these for our dirty clothes.
Yep. I rolled my eyes when my mom gave it to me, and it's become like one of the most important things.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Now, tell me, when you're looking to travel to a new destination, whether it's in America or not, what are some of your things that you look for? Are you an adventurer? Are you a foodie? What are you drawn to when you're traveling?
Yeah. So I like to do one trip a year with my wife and one trip a year with my wife and my kids.
Oh, okay.
So
which one's your favorite trip?
Both for different reasons.
Sure.
Right? I love showing the world to my kids, like having them
invaluable.
Seeing your kids be ungrateful in a new place is really special.
Okay, so that's a shared common parent thing, because you're like, I can't wait to take my kid to this national park, and they're like, wow, look at these trees, and you're like, all right, when you're 25, you'll get it.
Well, and I am just kind of joking around. Every parent has those moments on a trip, obviously, but to see your kids see the world and experience something new, it's been one of the most rewarding parts of parenthood. So on trips with my kids, what I really want is for them to experience something that they can't experience in our day-to-day in Utah. So that definitely means the beach is a place we go, and they find shells. We went to Hawaii, I think it was a year and a half ago with our kids. And we found this little cove, and we snorkeled in this cove for hours. And there was this sea turtle just swimming around in that cove, and we're swimming with this sea turtle for the whole time. My kids talk about that all the time. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And so giving my kids experiences that are out of the norm is my priority on trips with the family.
Sure.
Right? With my wife, she is a big relaxer, because as a mom of four, she doesn't get a lot of time to relax, right? So we're looking for somewhere warm for sure. We usually go during the school year too, because we don't want to waste our summers by being gone from our kids in the summertime. And so we'll go somewhere warm. That's definitely a requirement. Sometimes to a beach, usually to recharge. And so the purpose of the trip is very different. I like to be a little more adventurous with the kids.
Yeah.
With my wife, we look for somewhere we can recharge.
Yeah. Best of both worlds, I honestly feel like. Now, where is your guys's, I'm going to steal a book out, a note out of your book, just because now I personally want to know, where's a dream destination for you?
I've thought a lot about that. For me, New Zealand has always had a lot of intrigue.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah.
So you can do everything in New Zealand, and then they have all 4 seasons, right? But they have some of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. They also have some of the best trout fishing in the world, which I've always...
Really? I had no clue about that.
I've always wanted to fish in New Zealand. I think that would be really cool. They have some of the best golf in the world in New Zealand.
Okay.
And so that's always had a lot of appeal.
Yeah. So that's on the books eventually.
Eventually.
I love it.
Part of it's my laziness to not go renew my passport. I gotta go get that figured out.
No, I have to ask, who is the trip planner? Do you typically take on that, or is your wife? Or she's just put me on a plane and ship me off and
and if she had to plan the trip, we'd never go because it's kind of overwhelming for her and everything. So it's kind of like, no, you tell me where we're going, approve it before you book it.
Yes.
And so she can, it's kind of like she can swipe left or right on the 3 trips that I've given her options for, and then we'll pick one and go.
I love it. Well, I want to bring it back to Mesa. You also came down here for golf with our CEO, but I have to know, what are your top 3 golf courses when you're out here?
Yeah, so I've played Longbow and Dobson Ranch, and both of those I had a blast. I've been dying to play Las Sendas, and I'm playing that tomorrow with Mark. So we'll make that number 3 because I know it's going to be great.
I love it. Well, you're in for a treat. Our weather's finally cooling down. We had a random little rain burst this morning, so I hope that doesn't translate to golf tomorrow, but you're in good company, great weather. They've got great food at their restaurant, so you definitely have to check that out too while you're there.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Adam, I want our audience to know, where can they find you at? Website, socials, LinkedIn, drop all the good details.
Yeah, so Adam Stoker on LinkedIn is probably the easiest thing. You can find me on Instagram. I think it's A Stoker. I should know that more clearly. I've also built a platform for the destination marketing space called Tourism IQ. And of course, that's going to be one of the easiest places to find me.
Awesome. And can you maybe give a little bit of tidbit of what Tourism IQ is then for our audience?
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about, owned media, one of the things that I recognized is I've got all these listeners, but not a place to interact with them directly, right?
Sure.
So I built Tourism IQ as a place where I can interact with the audience that I've built and the community that we've built. But then on top of that, a place where we can provide resources, and not just me, but anybody in the community can provide resources and education. And we post all the available jobs in the space on Tourism IQ. And the idea is to help everybody progress in their careers in one place.
Wow. Well, thank you. We will definitely get all of that added. Well, Adam, thank you so much for coming by. You're our first out-of-state guest that flew to come do this. So thank you so much. And I'm definitely sure this is not the first of many conversations we will have together.
Well, thanks for having me. I got to say, this podcast really is one of the very best destination podcasts that are out there. And I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it. All right, guys, that is a wrap. Please check us out on all forms of social media, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye. I need somewhere to escape to. Mesa, that's where I feel free. I'm on the way.